the NSLS-II show with your hosts, Matthew Whitaker, Mark Dean, Simerjeet Gill, with special guests Shen, Lisa Miller, and John Hill.
All right. So thank you guys again for joining us for the second edition of the NSLS-II UEC show. We hope you enjoyed the first one, and we hope there are even more of you here to enjoy it the second time around. This is the natural evolution of the town hall meetings that the Users Executive Committee of the NSLS-II used to have, and we're here to have a little bit less presentation and a little bit more conversation, so we're definitely interested in hearing from you, both the live audience that are in the room. We also have an email address that is open to the internet where you can submit questions live during the show. That is NSLS2UEC@bnl.gov. And if you're watching this on the Vimeo link that was distributed, we also have live video chat and Q&A available on the side of the screen during the episode. So please go ahead and submit your questions. At this time, I am Matt Whitaker. I'm the vice chair of the UEC here at NSLS-II, and I would like to introduce my co-host, which is Mark Dean, who is the past chair of the NSLS-II UEC.
Good to be here.
It is very good to be here. We hope you guys enjoy the show that we have for you here. We've got a few guests lined up. And what I found is the notes last time really kind of screwed me up. So I'm just going to get rid of them now and just wing it from this point forward. So one of the things that I'd like to do is give you the format of the show. We've got 4 people who are guests on the show this time, and we're going to bring them up one at a time. If you have questions for them, please feel free to ask them while they're here. And at the very end, our last guest is Simerjeet Gill. She's going to be the chair of the UEC, and if you have any questions that are appropriate for the Users Executive Committee, you can ask them then. So at this time, I would like to introduce our first guest, who is Shen, and he's the Deputy Director of the NSLS-II for Science. So Chun, please.
Hi. Hi.
Thank you for hosting this.
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that we like to do with all of our guests at the beginning is kind of get a little bit of a human factor and get to know them outside of their purview of the lab. And so I understand that you personally are a baseball fan, is that right?
Yes, I kind of like to watch baseball. So maybe that's all started when I was in graduate school at Purdue, and I saw the World Series in 1986, I believe, and Mets and Red Sox. So that was a really fun series, and I was almost glued every day onto the screen, onto the TV screen. So that was fun. So, and then when I moved to Cornell, we had an intramural sports. I think we played softball, and people encouraged me to try it out, so I did. I think the first game I was at bat. I did a double. At least that's what they told me. So I hope that was true. Yeah.
So now you're a Mets fan then, is that right?
I'm not sure I should say that.
Okay,
so.
I was going to say sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Yes.
Losses, multiple losses.
I understand.
But I know nothing about baseball, so we're going to move right along.
Okay.
One of the things that we would like you to give a little bit of an update on is we just had the New Science Strategic Planning meeting here at NSLS-II, and you were one of the lead organizers of that meeting, so I was curious to get some information about how the meeting went and what came of it.
Okay, sure. So as you know, we had a 3-day workshop for strategic planning at the NSLS-II. So we call it Enabling New Science Frontiers at the NSLS-II. So that was at Stony Brook on the first day, and then on the second day and third day here at Brookhaven. So as you know, the main purpose for the workshop is to really get the community together to discuss the evolving science trends, research needs, as well as the how NSLS-II can take part in terms of future science directions and so on. So I thought we had an excellent turnout. We had over 240 registered participants. And we had parallel sessions in 6 science areas. I don't have to repeat them there. It's quantum materials, and engineering science, as well as chemistry, biology, and environmental science, and so on, and plus soft matter. So I thought we had really good discussions at both the plenary as well as at the parallel sessions. There were even mini debates, perhaps one can say, during very lively discussions at the parallel sessions. So I certainly enjoyed many of the sessions. Unfortunately, I couldn't be everywhere for the parallel sessions. So I thought that was a good, very good workshop. It's really going to help us thinking about our future.
So now, out of all of the invited speakers that we had in the different sessions and in the plenary sessions at the workshop, who was the best speaker and why was it me?
Okay, I actually thought that was you. Okay. Yes.
I'll take that as a
All
very,
right,
very
yes,
good sign.
yeah.
So
You sing very well, I know for sure.
You're I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So your general impressions of how the workshop went were good then?
Yeah, I thought it was really good in terms of how the discussions went. So we heard a lot about how people are doing various science, and maybe 2 things that stand out to me. One is a high throughput in operando and in situ analysis of various material systems, ranging from materials chemistry all the way to environmental science and so on. So there's a lot of discussions along those lines, including multimodal and multi-scale investigations of material systems. So I thought that was one thing, and maybe coupled in with that is data analytics. So clearly, in the past few years, there's a lot of development in those areas. In data analytics, as well as in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So this is all, seems like it's all going to help in the future how material science and biology is done in science. So those were 2 things that's really standing out to me. And in terms of biology, maybe I was, I think in this room, maybe, I don't quite remember now, I heard a talk by Caroline Larrabell from Berkeley Lab and UCSF. And I thought she gave a really excellent talk on the cryo transmission X-ray microscopy on frozen hydrated biological cells. And I've been sort of following that development on and off. But recent development or accomplishment from that group in that area is really very impressive. Many of the quantitative analysis is really excellent. So that also gave me a pretty good impression for that field. Yeah. So that was a basic impression. We will need to digest all the information that's coming out. So as you know, we're having the 6 co-leads or 12 co-leads for each of the for the 6 science areas, writing up reports. So that's we are going to maybe having this in about a month's time. I think we gave them a deadline of December 6th. Sort of like the week after Thanksgiving. And then the report and the workshop will really play an important role in terms of how we're going to be pursuing future development at our facility. So this may include development at existing beamline facilities. And as you may know, we have a mechanism called facility improvement projects. So those are the projects we use a very small portion of our operating funds to support developing new instruments, new analysis, and new capabilities essentially at NSLS-II. And so the outcomes from the workshop would really help us to define what are the emphasis for future development in that area. And then the second part is our future new beam lines. So this is obviously going to shape our strategy, how to pursue future beam lines. And so those are the main things, and all these will go into the strategic plan, our next version of the strategic plan. So many of the elements will be included in that. I forgot to mention that many of the development that we would pursue in the next years may also influence our future upgrade plans for the whole facility for the accelerator part. So that's so in that sense, we felt this was a very important workshop and pretty successful in terms of getting community involved to do this. I should say that I should thank UEC for the generous support to allow us to have this. This also includes Stony Brook Research Foundation to provide it some. Okay, so you like both?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, all the my co-organizers of the workshop, and they did a great job. And in particular, Mercy and Jean helping out on the logistics and coordination part.
Mercy and Jean.
So it's all kinds of effort to make this successful, and also everyone who participated, including our favorite speaker, you.
That was me.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah. So would you have anything to add about where we go from here, about the strategic plan?
Right. So as I mentioned, so right now we have a current version posted online. That was posted at the beginning of October. So we're soliciting input, and so this workshop outcome will mostly influence our next version. We're aiming to publish the next version by the end of September 2020. So I think there will be a lot of discussions or continued discussions along those lines in terms of new development we would like to include in the strategic plan. So we are really looking forward to see reports coming. I think based on much of the information that we received so far, it's going to be pretty exciting, I would say, for the next years for the new development. So
sounds good.
Okay.
All right. So do we have any questions from the audience in the room? No? There was one that was submitted earlier today to the email address that you've already partially answered. But when the report for the workshop gets posted, it'll be made available on the NSLS-II website?
Yes, of course, yes. I forgot to say that we are asking each science area will have maybe 10 pages. We don't want to have it for too long, so no one will be reading it. So this will be sort of like a 60-page document compiled together to highlight the future development directions. So that will be posted on our website. Yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else? In that case, let's thank Chun again for being our guest today.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. All right. At this time, we're going to get ready to bring our second guest up, but I'm getting a little parched, so branding. So, I'm sorry, mine's bigger. At this point, I'd like to bring up our second guest, and our second guest today is Lisa Miller, and she is the manager of the it's US CEO. I'm going to let her tell you what it means. All right. All right, so welcome to the NSLS-II UEC show.
Thank you very much, Matt.
So
Mark.
I understand that you are a person who likes to go to very high places, which
Yes.
is not for somebody who has a fear of heights like me, but you have actually been to the highest point in 49 out of the 50 states. Is that true?
That is correct.
Which one didn't you go to?
Well, I'm going to let you guys guess. I'll let Mark guess first.
If it was me, Alaska.
Okay.
He wins. I know.
Oh, it is? Oh. I was going to say Iowa because since I was a little kid, I've always had this irrational fear. I've always wanted to go to 49 of the 50 states, but not Iowa. Never Iowa.
I mean, Iowa's easy since it's flat everywhere as both the highest and the lowest points. So
I guess that's a good point, yeah. So, but I'm never going there.
okay.
I have to say it's a wonderful way to see the entire United States is to visit the highest points of all the states. So
Yeah, because you can see everything from
you
there.
absolutely can. Yes.
Very cool.
Even Florida has a highest point.
It's very low, but it's still the highest
That's
point in
exactly
Florida. So one of the main reasons that we have you on the show right now is there have been a lot of exciting new updates to the proposal system for
Right.
beam time here at NSLS-II. So you can apply for probably the word that gets bandied about the most that people may not be aware of fully is the new multimodal proposal
Right.
access.
Yeah.
So that might be the first thing that I would ask you. What is exactly a multimodal proposal and how does it work?
Okay, so typically beam time proposals, you can only ask for one beamline, but now we've changed the proposal system so that you can actually ask for up to, if you're writing a general user proposal, you can actually request up to 3 beamlines on that proposal. So it's still the same abstract, it's still the same scientific motivation, but it allows users to have a multimodal approach to doing their experiments. And so you can ask for multiple beamlines. And then the way we handle that from the review side is that if your beamlines that you request come from, say, X-ray scattering and imaging, the proposal actually goes to the different panels separately. And so what we were used to seeing proposals having just one score, now proposals actually can have multiple scores because the panel will score it, and then for that particular beamline it will get allocated based on that score. And so it's a little bit more complicated for the reviewers, but we think it's much more convenient for the users to just have to submit one proposal to tell their whole story, where they can actually say, this is the science that I want to do. Really focus on the science, and then say, but I need this tool, and I need that tool, and so then they can ask for multiple techniques. And so it has worked really well. So we started the first multimodal proposal request came in May, and then we had our second call in September, and we have on the order of 20 to 25% of our users are now submitting multimodal proposals where they're asking for more than one beamline. So it seems to be a success, and we're really, really happy to see that, that it has been.
So I know as someone who submitted a multimodal proposal, it is definitely a big improvement, and it's something that I think will be very useful for all of the users as they move forward.
I'm glad to hear that.
And one of the other things that has been added to several beamlines are these what are called bag proposals, which I guess are beamline allocation or beam time allocation groups. Did I say that right? Or
No.
I did not. That's exactly why I'm glad you're here.
So a BAG stands for a block allocation group. And so BAG proposals for short are something that Sean McSweeney brought to the facility when he moved from ESRF. They happen in Europe. They're more popular over there. They've become very popular here. And what a BAG proposal is it's basically what it's described as. It's a block allocation group. So if you have a team of scientists, they can be collaborators. They can all be from a common institution. Maybe they're all working on a similar project. But if they all are kind of working together and they just need a small amount of beam time, then they can submit this single BAG proposal where they can ask for a small number of shifts, maybe 3 or 6 or 9 shifts for the cycle, and then they decide based on who's ready with their samples, how they actually who will get the time on the BAG proposal. So the proposal gets reviewed as a whole, it gets a score, and then it gets allocated a certain amount of time. But then there's a principal investigator, a PI of the BAG, who actually works with the team to decide who's going to actually get the time. It works terrific for structural biology because they never know who's going to have the crystals and who's not going to have the crystals in time. We've also seen it work actually for our high school program. So we have a high school BAG where we have on the order of 20 high school students high schools on Long Island where students are working on scientific research projects in their schools, and they actually will come and do experiments on the beamline. So they get a very small amount of beam time, but it actually helps them a lot when their samples are ready. That's when they can actually come and do the experiment. So, so the bags have worked very well too. We have almost 30 bags that are running right now, which represent on the order of probably 100 different research groups, and so you know, which is terrific. So some of the bags are small, maybe 3 or 4 research groups, but some of the bags are larger, you know, upwards of 10. So it's also become a very useful way for users to get access to the facility, which seems to be unique within the at least within the U.S. synchrotrons. Yeah. So again, we're happy about that one. had to get a chance to do that.
Hey, no, that's totally fine. So one of the other things that actually you deal with a lot too are the safety approval forms that come through. And so one of the things that's been brought to our attention as the users executive committee is that a lot of times we find that users are submitting their safety approval forms, shall we say, marginally on the late side.
Yeah, so we would definitely like to encourage the users, now that we have, you know, beamlines are oversubscribed, we're having a lot of users come, and so our safety folks really need that 2 weeks before the beam time in order to submit their proposals. And so we really encourage users, and we're having, you know, everybody thinks of their beam time at the last minute, and you're thinking of beam time a couple days before you're going to go, but we really need to have those SAFs submitted 2 weeks or more before the beam time starts, so that there aren't any delays, because there may be things that that have to be pre-reviewed and looked at by electrical safety and other types of things, which if they submit the day or two before, there's going to be a delay starting their beam time when they get here, because these things haven't been approved yet. And so 2 weeks is really, you know, the message that we really like everybody to know, you know, no later than 2 weeks before the beam time to, you know, submit their SAFs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we've been noticing some updates come through to the POS system. Is there anything else users should be looking out for in the near future?
So we continue to make improvements to the proposal system, and I think that what folks are going to see in the more recent future is actually changes to the peripheral parts of the PASS system. So we're almost finished working on the new publications database, and so right now, you know, one of our biggest metrics for success at the synchrotron is how many publications we have. And our old publications database it's quite tedious to enter publications, and so I know, you know, all of these publications that you guys are both publishing, you know, you don't want to spend that 10 minutes to enter a publication into the database. But now we're going to have a DOI lookup, so you just have to copy and paste the DOI of your paper in and enter the beamline, and then everything else will be done for you. And so we're really hoping that that'll help reporting from the user side of things in order to, you know, to get that process done quicker. So. And the other thing that is coming is our end of run survey. So we're still using the old end of run survey from old NSLS, and that will be retired very soon. And Gretchen has been working very hard with the past developers to rebuild the end of run survey, so that we can actually have it easier to get feedback from the users for what they do like about their beam time, what they didn't like about user amenities, all those types of things. Again, we're hoping that it'll be very mobile ready, so when your beam time is done and you're on that shuttle bus going back to the airport or something, you can just fill out that end of run form in 5 minutes or less, instead of having to sit down at a computer and do it 2 weeks later or something. So again, we want your feedback, we need your feedback, but we recognize in today's day and age that it has to be done in a quick, fast way, and so that's what we're working on doing for the end of run survey too. So I think, so you asked about the proposal system. These are peripheral things, but they're also really important for users, and for us to know what the users want, coming down the road.
Sure.
So, yeah. Okay.
All right. So,
All right.
Do we have any questions for Lisa while she's here? Any other questions? All right, Sanjay.
Do you have a limit of the bag size in terms of the shifts?
So is there a limit to the size of the, like the number of shifts that are allocable through a bag proposal?
So we don't have a fixed limit, but the intention is that the amount of time requested is small. And so I can just, for structural biology, for example, the average number of shifts that they'll get in the cycle is 6. And so we're not, this is not something that's going to, take up 2 or 3 weeks or 10% of the beamline's time for a single bag proposal. So it really is more for the convenience of the group and to minimize the the work on our side for multiple groups wanting to use small amounts of time. And so there's no fixed number because it's going to depend on what beamline they're at. But maybe small is the best
Right.
answer.
I imagine it also expands the number of users that are allowed to come to the facility
Absolutely,
in that sense as
right,
well. Because if a beamline receives 15 proposals, all of which are asking for a minimal number of shifts, they may not make the cutoff.
Exactly.
for that,
No,
yeah.
that's exactly right. And if they're all coming and they want to do the same type of thing, a very straightforward measurement, because bags aren't meant to be taking the beamline apart and putting it back together again. They're really meant to just, everybody on the bag is performing a similar routine experiment where they can come in and go out, pretty quickly. So, and more of them can get in if they coordinate as a group who's going to be there when, right?
Right.
Yeah. So.
All right. Any other? Kevin?
So is the goal to expand the bags to more beamlines or all the beamlines? Is that the end game?
So how far expanded will the bags eventually end up going?
So thank you for asking, Kevin. We started with the bags, we're just on structural biology beamlines, and we've expanded it to 4 or 5 other beamlines. So we've expanded it now to both the diffraction program and the scattering program. It's really up to the beamline staff to decide whether they want to accept bags at this point in time. And because it really depends on how much, again, since the bag is to do routine techniques that users can come in and out without a lot of changing of configurations, I don't think every beamline is going to be amenable to handling bag proposals. But if the beamline staff think they can, say for a particular subset of experiments that they want to do, then they could have bags too. So it could be all of them, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah.
Okay.
Bruce?
Where does the bag come from? Has the examples that you have so far, have they come the community coming together, or is it something that the beamline staff have suggested the organization of a group of people into a bag?
So the question was, where do the bags come from?
So that most of the bags that we have now are in structural biology, and they are institutionally based mostly. So they're typically for a group of crystallographers from a particular medical school or university. The newer bags that we're seeing for the non-structural biology programs or non-structural biology beamlines are programmatically based. And so if they have a particular scientific theme where they need to use one particular technique, then those are the bags that are being put together.
Is it self-organized?
Yes.
Or was it something
It's
that was put-
it's self-organized. Yeah. That's what we're seeing so far. Yeah.
Okay. Again? Sorry, go ahead, Sanjay. Oh, yeah.
So I have a question on the SAF on the pass system.
Yes.
There are many users don't use the beam and they use the lab beam line. They want to use the lab, and we have been discussing with you for a long time, but it's still not we cannot have a SAF only for the lab.
So the question is there a plan to institute in the future a SAF that deals with just the laboratory facilities and not the beamline facilities themselves?
So it's a great question, and lots of people have asked that. And the short answer is yes. We everything we do at NSLS-II has to have a proposal associated with it. So there won't just be a SAF, but there will be. We are developing a lab-only proposal process. So it's not going to go out to the PRP for review, but to be able to just use the lab, they'll be able to submit a very streamlined proposal, like a beamline discretionary time proposal, for example, and then have a SAF that doesn't necessarily have to get posted at the beamline, because we're seeing that more and more, especially as the labs are getting built out, that people are needing to use the labs, and they may need to use the lab this cycle because they're going to use the beamline next cycle, and so we need to have a mechanism for that. So we're working on it, and it just needs to get implemented. Yeah. And thank you for asking.
All right. Any other questions? All right. If not, let's thank Lisa again. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
You already did, but I figure I'd put it up anyway. So at this time, we're going to bring up our third guest. He's the heavy hitter, the master of all he surveys. We've got John Hill, who is the director of NSLS-II. John. Good to see you again.
Hi, John. How are you? Good to see you.
All right. So in coming up with more of these humanizing discussions, one of the things that came out that I absolutely have no jokes for whatsoever is you are a yoga practitioner. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm not very flexible. So how long have you been doing this?
Not long, maybe just almost a year now. It's something I do once or twice a week. I find it really relaxes me, de-stresses me, keeps me somewhat fit. So
I don't have any of those problems.
Sleep better afterwards, things like that. So.
Do you want to give us a demonstration?
Absolutely not.
All right.
But thanks for asking, Mark.
All right. So, I mean, you are the best person to ask about what's going on around the ring here at NSLS-II. So, please just give us an update on what's been going down.
Thanks. There's a few things I want to brief you on and just kind of bring you up to speed on what's been happening. First thing to mention was about 2 weeks ago we had a big celebration for the fifth year anniversary of our first light at NSLS-II. So that was a wonderful event. I don't know if you were around at the time. So October 23rd was the actual date. On October 23rd, 5 years ago, we all stood on the floor waiting with anticipation, is the light going to come on or not? And the big moment came, and of course it flashed on, and the first photons hit CSX, and the big cheer went up. It's a very dramatic event. I'll remember that for a long time, being there that day. But what I want to say was sort of, although it hasn't been as dramatic, the next 5 years has been just as impressive in terms of what we've done since then. So back on that day, we had one beamline that took some photons at 25 milliamps. Today, 5 years later, we have 28 beamlines. We're running at 400 milliamps. We had 1,755 users last year, which is, by the way, a record. And maybe we'll have even as many as 2,000 in this coming year. So we're really at a very different place from where we are now, and I'm really proud of all that we've done here. And by working so hard together as a team, we've really accomplished a huge amount. So that celebration last week or 2 weeks ago was really about kind of thanking people for that work they put in and acknowledging how far we've come. So that was really a very enjoyable day, so I wanted to mention that. As we look forward to the future of the machine and continue what we're doing there, we want to continue to improve the performance. And last time I was up here, I talked about the third RF cavity. That will give us much more reliable operations. That's progressing along quite nicely. We cold tested it a few weeks back. It works it survived the liquid nitrogen cool down, so that's the big first step. Over the Christmas shutdown, we'll cool it down to liquid helium temperatures and put some voltage on it and make sure it runs. And then the next shutdown, probably spring shutdown, we'll actually install it in the ring. We're in contract with with a company for the transmitters that will power this cavity once it's in. They are arriving next summer, and so by this time next year, we'll have 3 powered cavities in the ring, able to survive any one failing and without loss of current. So that's really important in terms of reliability and delivering reliable beam to the users, which is, of course, what we're all about. So that's a good news story there. We also very successfully ran the current up to 500 milliamps recently. That's the first time we've ever taken it up. So that's the full operating current that we've designed this machine for. We've done that a couple times now. There were big issues over the years we had to solve to get to that current. Particular one was overheating of the chambers. The vacuum chambers themselves were getting too hot. So we believe we solved most of those heating issues now. And as we said, we ran at 500 milliamps for 4 hours. And we can do that a few more times to really understand those heating issues in detail, and also the beam dynamics issues when you have those very high currents. That was all done with the undulators open, so we're not requiring the full power. So that's just in terms of just understanding how the machine behaves at those currents. We won't be able to deliver that to the users until we can deliver the extra power, so that requires a third RF cavity to be installed and powered up. But there's another issue, which is the lifetime of the beam. When you have that very high current, the lifetime drops because you've got so many electrons in such close proximity. And then you're really stressing the injector, which is constantly injecting to keep it that current. So we can't deliver that to the user until we have something else called the third harmonic cavity, which will stretch out those bunches, and that reduces the impact on lifetime. Then we can run the injector at normal injection frequencies. So we've got a detailed plan that we're putting together now about how to get to that final point to deliver the full 500 milliamps, and we'll squeeze the vertical impedance at the same time to the users. But that's a few years' time we should be there. But we're just to let you know we're making progress, good progress along that route. Let's see what else to mention. We had a big ribbon cutting ceremony yesterday. The NIST beamlines, we formally recognized them reaching general use operations. So they have 3 beamlines they built in partnership with us. So that was a fun day too. It's always fun to bring new beamlines into the fold, so to speak. We had this NIST senior management out here that day to kind of enjoy the celebration, and so we took advantage of that to talk about how we might work better with them in the long term, not just in partnership on the beamlines, but maybe more broadly between DOE and Department of Commerce. So that was really interesting, really productive, and I think there'll be ways to work with them going forward that will benefit us all. So that was really exciting. Let's see. What to mention in the context of the NIST beamlines is that they had a set of users here a couple of weeks ago from the Nobel Prize winner Stan Whittingham. He won the Nobel Prize this year for his work on lithium-ion batteries with 2 others. And his group has been here, coming here for years actually, but they were here 2 weeks ago running on the NIST beamlines. I think Bruce in the audience there, he was there at the contact. So that was really fun to have them around. They've been, as I said, long-time users, both here and at the Nano Center actually. And the other thing to mention is that we recently won 3 awards for internal proposals at the lab. These are called LDRDs, so Lab Directed Research and Development. And these fund startup projects that hopefully will grow into something more significant down the line. And we were successful with 3 this year, which is a really big number for us. And they're all in the field, or they're all related to AI and machine learning. So we're going to run those in as coordinated fashion as we can. So they will really build on the work that we've been doing with the Nano Center and with the Computational Science Initiative here, and really increase our footprint in this area. And I think this is really timely because DOE in general is looking at this area as an area they want to fund in this coming year. And so the more progress we can make here now, first of all, benefit us in terms of the data analysis we're trying to do on the fly at the beamlines, but allow us to attract additional funding and to continue to grow that effort going forward. We've got a really solid platform here for that kind of activity. The Blue Sky software platform that we developed here for the data acquisition system is really naturally lends itself to using the known AI and machine learning algorithms that are already out there. It's all Python-based, so they can bring in these software packages. So I think we're in a really strong position competitively across the DOE to work in this area, so I'm really happy about that. So those are my, whatever that 5-minute update.
All right. And I'd just like to point out that a couple of the LDRD winners are actually in the room right now.
That's
so
true. Yeah,
give it up for you guys.
Yeah. So I heard there's some issues with the amount of sample and equipment on the floor at the moment.
We're in general having housekeeping issues. There's always a lot going on the floor. There's a lot of construction, a lot of installation, users coming in and out, and we see general housekeeping problems where as you walk around the ring you can see crates of stuff that are half open, maybe the equipment left on the side. It's not quite clear, are they about to be installed, are they being thrown away, are they being accessed? So we're really encouraging people to be much more, pay much more attention to the general housekeeping issues. So if it's a spare part, put it on a shelf. You can even label it spare parts, that's really useful. If it's about to be installed, maybe say that, and certainly don't leave stuff lying around that you're not going to use anytime soon. Related to this, we're really asking people to tag their property. So if it's Brookhaven bought property, it gets tagged automatically with the property stickers. But if it's a user owned equipment, it doesn't get tagged, and then it sits out on the floor, and when we get audited, there's a lot of apparently untagged equipment on the floor, and that causes problems. So we are asking users to tag their equipment. This could be your laptop, it could be your camera, it could be your bike, or it could be experimental equipment. Either way, just put a little tag on it that says property of whoever, and we're giving out those tags in the user office, at the Gov Center, and I think the Beamline staff will have them on hand too. Just little stickers to put on there, and that'll really help us when these audit teams come through doing better, because we're really getting hammered on that one. Year after year we do badly in that, so we have to get a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, no one could possibly know who owns this cup, right?
Exactly.
All right. So are there any questions from the audience here for John? Sanjit, go ahead.
On the camera.
You want to be on camera? Really?
So it's a long question, but we know that we have a strategic plan, and there are many plans for the. What is your personal thoughts about NSLS-II going forward for next 5 years? You want to click on the high impact sciences and give the facility to high impact sciences, or you want to use the existing high level techniques for providing high impact sciences?
Okay, so that's a good question. I think if you took about a 5-year horizon, we're really focusing on what we've got on the floor today for that. Slightly longer than that, you might start thinking, so we have this next 2 construction projects, can deliver another 3 world-class beamlines here. But one of the main messages I got from the strategic planning workshop a few weeks ago was that the stuff we've got on the floor is great. We want, in some sense, more of it. We want to use it more effectively. And so that means everything from maybe the way we think about beam time access, but also the data acquisition, the data analysis, making that more efficient. We heard a lot about the data issues in general, in terms of users, need help getting those data understood in real time and then after the fact. And so the more we can do to make more efficient use of the equipment we've got on the floor now and the capabilities we've got now, I think the better for the next 5 years. You start to look even further out, and then you took about 5-10 years out, then you have to start asking, how can we be competitive with the synchrotrons around the world? As you all know, they're all getting upgraded rapidly right now. The MBA lattices are coming on board, the emittance is going down. We have to think about how we can be competitive on that world stage. And we're not with a large effort, but with a small effort right now, beginning to think about what that might look like in terms of upgrades to the machine, but that won't be enough. I think the upgrades that are going on around the world right now, the MBAs, are pretty much as far as you can go in terms of getting the emittance down in a useful way. So we have to think about different ways we can increase our productivity. And I think that takes you straight to optics, detectors, data. Those are the things that are going to really enable what we can do going forward. So on the 5 to 10 year horizon, that's where we'll need to be making big steps forward.
Any other questions for anyone in the room? Oh, you're getting off the hook easy this time, aren't you? All right, let's thank John again.
Thank you much. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks. All right, so at this time, we're going to bring up our final guest, who is our returning champion, Gill, the chair of the NSLS-II User Executive Committee. So we're stuck in meetings all day, and I've seen you very recently, but we know kind of what's going on with the NSLS-II UEC, but it would be a perfect opportunity now for you to let everyone else know what we've been doing for the last couple of months, since the last time we did this show.
Yeah, I think we as UEC have been working very hard to address user needs and concerns, and I would like to reiterate that this is what Users Executive Committee is for. We are representatives of the users, and we are working for their interests. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us and talk to us about that. And to answer your question, what we have been doing, we do have our lounge open in building 740 for the users. They are nice comfy couches like this where you can sit and relax. Also, we do have our users meeting coming up. It is May 18th to 20th, 2019. So please get tuned with the agenda and reach out. Think of the workshops that you would like to organize during this meeting. There are a lot of volunteering opportunities, so reach out to UEC, and Matt is going to be the chair of the workshop, so reach out to him if you would like to participate as a user representative.
Yeah, so any help would be greatly appreciated. Anybody who has any ideas for what to do at the meeting.
And also we will have our UEC nominations open. So if you believe you yourself are a great candidate to serve UEC, or you would like to nominate someone for UEC, we would strongly encourage you to do so. We really are looking for energetic, passionate people to serve for users' interests. So I highly encourage you to engage with UEC, come up with the questions. We do have our line open right now. So if you have any questions, please ask. And lastly, we will be going to surf on November 12th to 13th. We will be talking about user interest at Maryland. And Matt here is going to go, so you want to tell users a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the SURF meeting, it's actually the SURF meeting. It's the Society for Science at User Research Facilities. And the meeting is going to be happening next week down in Washington, D.C. And apparently I get to go and talk to Congress, which may or may not have been a good idea to allow me to do that on their part. But it should be a lot of fun. We get to interact with the user groups from various different facilities around the United States. So it should be, we can exchange some ideas and let people know why we're the best. So, are there any questions that anybody here has about the UEC, what we do? And Sanjit, man.
He's on roll today.
Last time I was watching the screen.
Oh, right.
Opportunity, I had 2 teachers license.
Okay.
So I know that this UEC is for the synchrotron radiation for NSLS-II, but there is a big resources of users who don't use synchrotron radiation, but they do very high impact sciences. But and they had no idea. But in the past couple of years, I have this experience. I got so many users to NSLS-II who publish very nice papers from their lab. But when they use the synchrotron, they say, "Wow, we can see this, we can see do this." So, do you UEC can do something about it, like how to promote this non-synchrotron users?
So the question really is based around how do we expand our user base and yeah. So outreach is one of the big things I think that we're always kind of trying to work on improving in the UEC. And Eric Farquhar is our outreach officer on the UEC, and I know that we've had a lot of discussions about overhauling some of the things that we have available on the website, making some tools available to users. One of the things that we started to talk about in the annual users meeting planning meeting that we had yesterday was potentially having a workshop or potentially more than one at the users meeting that is targeted specifically at people who are not currently users of the synchrotron, to try to explain exactly what the synchrotron can bring to them and bring to their science, to hopefully bring them into the fold, as it were. So that's definitely something that's very important that we're looking forward to as we move toward the meeting. And expanding that outreach footprint is something that we're very interested in doing, and trying to expand the user base here.
Yes, and we have we have a workshop in planning where we will be educating the users to recruit them about NSLS-II capabilities, and we do have a parallel UEC at CFN. So CFN presentations will be a part of workshop to tell them about the electron microscopy and other facilities that exist at CFN. And we also have other mechanisms. For example, we have student discounts available. So suppose there's a new group at a university, right, and the student wants to come and attend our user meeting to educate or to be a part of our community, we waive the full registration. So for that particular student, if they are interested in presenting a poster at the NSLS-II users meeting, so that is one thing, one mechanism of recruiting students from a new group. And also, as I said, we are always looking and trying to recruit users. We have even come up with this new tradition where during right before the town hall, we all go around the ring, we try to talk to the users, they are there, we try to encourage them to tell them about UEC so that they can float the word around. So if there are people who would like to talk to us, we welcome this very much. This is one of our main missions, to increase users and have new users. So please feel free to give them our email addresses. We will personally reply to them as UEC, and we will try to guide them on all the mechanisms possible for them to take more advantage of the utilities here.
Right. So I should mention again at the top of the show, I mentioned that we have that email address for the submission of questions. That's the NSLS-II UEC at bnl.gov. That email address is always open. So if there's ever a question at any time, it can be submitted to that email address, and we can either save it for the show, or if it's something that's more pressing, we can answer it in the meantime as well. So the line of communication to the UEC is always open, and it's definitely a two-way street. So we would love to hear from anyone with any sort of questions or suggestions.
Definitely, yeah.
And this show itself is also part of that outreach effort. We're hoping that this becomes something that people catch on to, and that I'm hopefully not too annoying, and a little bit funny, and that hopefully that helps with it. But that people will catch on to this and look forward to the show as a forum that they can share questions and ideas and things like that, that we can bring the community together this way.
And also we have, at the last show we got this question of having travel grants. So that is something we are working on, and that is also a mechanism to support users to come here, where we will be soliciting applications for travel grants, 8 to 10 travel grants. So if that is something that can engage new users, I'll definitely encourage them to go for it.
All right. Do we have any other questions? In the room or on the internet, anywhere? Man, I love it when you guys make this job easy. All right. Well, in that case, I think it's about time to wrap this up. So thank you guys again so much for joining us for the second edition of the NSLS-II UEC show. We hope that you enjoyed it. We know we had a good time with it, and we'll be looking forward to coming back in February again with the next edition. Trust me, you'll get notices, and hopefully we will see you then. In the meantime, I'd like to thank everybody on the UEC who helped make this happen, everybody in the audience for attending, everybody on the internet for watching and caring, everyone who sent in or asked questions, even you, Sanjit. And again, we hope to see you next time around. So thank you very much.